Think you know the whole story? Turns out you were probably taught the half-truth. Welcome to Half-Truths. Close your eyes for a second. I want you to picture a scene. It's a Saturday afternoon. The air is thick with the scent of pizza, melting ice cream, and that specific, slightly waxy smell of a birthday cake just before the candles are lit. You hear the sound of children laughing, which quickly escalates into children shrieking with delight. A game of musical chairs has devolved into a gleeful, chaotic pillion. In the corner, a 7-year-old is explaining the entire plot of a movie at a volume usually reserved for jet engines. It's a child's birthday party. And at the center of it all, there's the fuel. The bowls of candy, the brightly colored juice boxes, the frosted cupcakes. As a parent, an aunt, an uncle, or just an observer, you watch the scene unfold, shake your head with a knowing smile, and think to yourself, well, of course, look at all that sugar. It's the universal explanation. The get-out-of-jail-free card for any bout of childhood chaos. The kids are bouncing off the walls because they're on a sugar high. It's as certain as gravity. We've all said it. We've all believed it. It's a piece of folk wisdom passed down through generations, reinforced by every sitcom that's ever shown a kid running in circles after eating a cookie. The equation is simple. Sugar goes in, hyperactivity comes out. It's an open and shut case. We don't even question it. But what if that story, that simple, satisfying explanation for why little Timmy is currently trying to climb the curtains, isn't the whole story? What if the connection we're so sure exists is actually just an illusion? What if decades of scientific research, of meticulous, double-blind, placebo-controlled studies, have all come to the same startling conclusion? The sugar rush is a myth. Today, we're unwrapping the sweet, sticky half-truth that sugar makes kids hyper. The story we all know is as comfortable as a well-worn sweater. It makes intuitive sense. We give a child a substance known for providing quick energy, and moments later, that child is exhibiting a tremendous amount of energy. The correlation seems undeniable. The cause and effect are right there in front of our eyes, playing out in real time in our living rooms and backyards. This belief isn't just a casual observation, it's a cornerstone of modern parenting advice. You'll hear it everywhere. Don't give them soda before bedtime. They'll be up all night. He had candy at the party, so get ready for the meltdown later. It's used to explain behavior, to predict it, and to try and control it. We structure our children's diets around this principle, treating sugar not just as a source of empty calories, but as a potent behavioral trigger, a chemical switch for hyperactivity. The idea is so pervasive that it has shaped our entire culture around children and food. Think about it. The special treat is almost always something sweet, given with the implicit understanding that it comes with a temporary burst of wildness. Halloween is the national day of the sugar rush, an evening where we collectively agree to let our kids get a little crazy. Fueled by pillowcases full of chocolate and hard candy, the narrative is powerful because it's simple, it's visual, and it absolves us of having to find a more complex explanation. The kid isn't just excited or tired or being a kid. No, he's sugared up. This narrative also provides a villain. When a child's behavior becomes difficult to manage, it's comforting to have an external thing to blame. It wasn't a lack of sleep or overstimulation or just a normal developmental phase. It was the cookie. It was the juice box. It was the slice of cake. The sugar did it. This simple explanation helps us make sense of the often baffling and unpredictable world of a child's emotions and energy levels. It gives us a sense of control. If we can just manage the sugar intake, we can manage the behavior. It's a compelling, convenient, and deeply ingrained story. And for a long time, nobody had much reason to question it. The first threads of our sugary narrative begin to unravel in the 1970s. This was a time of growing concern over food additives, preservatives, and their effect on health. A pediatrician named Dr. Benjamin Feingold proposed a popular theory that artificial food colorings, flavorings, and a group of compounds called salicylates were major causes of hyperactivity, or what we would now call ADHD. His Feingold diet, which eliminated these substances, gained a massive following. Tucked into his theory was the idea that refined sugar was also a major culprit. This tapped into the public's growing anxiety about processed foods, and the sugar makes kids hyper idea moved from the realm of parental folk wisdom into the world of scientific hypothesis. Researchers began to seriously investigate the claim. But when they designed studies to isolate the effect of sugar, something strange happened. The evidence just wasn't there. The real turning point came with the advent of a very specific and very powerful scientific tool, the double-blind, placebo-controlled study. This is the gold standard of medical research for a reason. It's designed to eliminate bias. In this context, it works like this. You gather a group of kids. You give half of them a food or drink containing a significant amount of sugar. You give the other half an identical food or drink, but you secretly replace the sugar with a placebo, an artificial sweetener like aspartame, which has no calories and doesn't affect blood sugar. Here's the critical part. Double-blind means that nobody involved in the immediate experiment knows who got what. The kids don't know. The parents don't know. Even the researchers observing the children's behavior don't know. This prevents anyone's expectations from coloring the results. If a parent thinks their child just had sugar, they are more likely to interpret normal, rambunctious behavior as hyperactivity. If a researcher knows which group is which, they might subconsciously score the sugar group's behavior differently. The double-blind design removes all of that. In 1994, a landmark study led by Dr. Mark Woolrich was published in the prestigious New England Journal of Medicine. It was a masterpiece of this design. They studied two groups of children, preschoolers described by their parents as being sugar sensitive, and a group of typical school-age children. Over a period of several weeks, each child followed 3 different diets, one high in sugar, one high in aspartame, and one high in saccharin, another artificial sweetener. The diets were designed so the sweet foods and drinks tasted the same. Neither the families nor the children knew which diet they were on during any given week. The researchers were exhaustive. They collected data on everything. Behavior was rated by parents, teachers, and clinicians. The children were put through a battery of cognitive and neuropsychological tests, measuring things like attention span, memory, and motor skills. After all the data was collected and the code was broken to reveal who ate what and when, the results were stunningly clear. There were no significant differences. The amount of sugar in the children's diets did not affect their behavior or their cognitive performance in any meaningful way. The sugar-sensitive kids were no different from the typical ones. The supposed trigger, when tested under rigorous, controlled conditions, did nothing. This wasn't an isolated finding. Study after study, using similar double-blind methods, replicated these results. A major meta-analysis published in the Journal of the American Medical Association in 1995 reviewed the data from 23 of the best studies on the topic. The researchers pooled all the results to get the most powerful conclusion possible. Their final verdict was unequivocal. Sugar does not appear to affect the behavior or cognitive performance of children. The sugar rush, as a direct physiological event, was a bust. So if the chemical itself isn't causing the chaos, what on earth is going on? This leads us to the most fascinating part of the story, and it has very little to do with biology and everything to do with psychology. The answer lies not in the sugar, but in the power of belief. Another brilliant study from 1994, this one by Hoover and Millick, decided to test the parents instead of the children. They took a group of 35 boys whose mothers described them as sugar sensitive. All the boys were given a placebo drink that contained no sugar at all. It was sweetened with aspartame. Then, the researchers told half of the mothers that their son had been given a large dose of sugar. They told the other half the truth, that the drink was sugar-free. The mothers were then asked to observe their sons through a one-way mirror and rate their behavior. The results were a revelation. The mothers who believed their sons had consumed sugar rated them as significantly more hyperactive. They were more critical of their children's actions. They hovered over them more, and they spoke to them more often than the mothers who knew their sons had the placebo. The objective data from trained observers, however, showed no difference in the actual behavior of the boys in the two groups. The effect wasn't in the child's body. It was in the parent's mind. This is the psychological phenomenon of expectation and confirmation bias. Parents go into a situation like a birthday party expecting sugar to cause hyperactivity. So when the kids get loud and excited, which they would do anyway, the parents see it as proof of their belief. They selectively notice the behaviors that fit the narrative and ignore the ones that don't. The child who is sitting quietly in the corner doesn't register, but the one climbing the furniture becomes Exhibit A for the sugar rush theory. We see what we expect to see. Now we can paint the real picture of what's happening at that birthday party. It's not a chemical reaction. It's a perfect storm of environmental and psychological factors. First, consider the context. Birthday parties are not quiet, contemplative affairs. They are festivals of stimulation. You have a group of kids, many of whom have been looking forward to this event for weeks. They are in a novel environment, surrounded by friends, loud music, bright decorations, and exciting games. They are often freed from the normal rules of home and school. In this context, running, shouting, and a general state of high excitement is not an abnormal reaction to a chemical. It is the normal reaction to the environment. The sugar is simply a fellow traveler, a conspicuous passenger on a train that was already headed for Excitementville. The cake and ice cream don't cause the excitement. They are part of the excitement. They are symbols of celebration, indulgence, and fun. The ritual of singing, cutting the cake, and eating a special treat is itself a peak moment of the event. To blame the sugar for the subsequent energy is like blaming the confetti for the noise on New Year's Eve. You're mistaking a symptom of the celebration for the cause. So what does sugar actually do to the body? When we consume sugar, or any carbohydrate, our body breaks it down into glucose, which is the primary fuel for our cells, including our brain cells. The hormone insulin is released to help move this glucose out of the bloodstream and into the cells where it can be used for energy. In a healthy child, this system is remarkably efficient. The body is very good at maintaining a relatively stable level of blood glucose, preventing extreme spikes or dips. The idea that a single slice of cake would send blood sugar levels soaring into a range that dramatically alters brain function and behavior just isn't physiologically accurate for most people. Now, some people might say, what about the sugar crash? That's a real phenomenon, known as reactive hypoglycemia. In some individuals, a large intake of sugar can cause a slight overproduction of insulin, which can lead to blood sugar levels dipping a little too low a few hours later. The symptoms of this aren't hyperactivity, they're the opposite. Drowsiness, irritability, brain fog, and fatigue. So if sugar has any delayed effect, it's more likely to be a sugar slump than a sugar rush. The truth, then, is far more nuanced and interesting than the myth. The sugar rush is a powerful cultural script, a story we've all learned to perform. The kids are excited because it's a party. The parents, armed with the sugar script, observe this excitement and label it hyperactivity. This labeling, in turn, can even influence the child's behavior and the parent-child interaction. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, written in frosting. The real story isn't about biochemistry. It's about sociology, psychology, and the power of a good, simple, and ultimately incorrect explanation. So we have journeyed from the chaotic scene of a child's birthday party, armed with the certainty that sugar is the villain, into the sterile, controlled world of the scientific laboratory. We've seen how researchers carefully dismantled our assumptions, using placebos and double-blind designs to separate fact from fiction. And we've emerged with a new understanding, one where the culprit isn't the sucrose molecule, but the story we tell ourselves about it. The half-truth that sugar makes kids hyper is so compelling because it offers a simple solution to a complex problem. The reality that a child's behavior is a dizzying mix of their personality, their developmental stage, their environment, their level of tiredness, and 100 other factors is messy and much harder to manage. Blaming the cookie is just easier. But why does correcting this particular myth matter? It's not about giving kids a green light to eat all the sugar they want. We know that excessive sugar consumption is linked to a host of health problems, from obesity to type 2 diabetes to dental cavities. The nutritional argument against a high-sugar diet remains as strong as ever. The issue here isn't about nutrition, it's about understanding behavior. When we misattribute a child's normal, boisterous, and sometimes challenging behavior to a food ingredient, we miss the opportunity to understand what's really going on. We might overlook that a child is overstimulated or anxious, or simply needs to run around outside. We apply a dietary label to what might be an emotional or environmental need. It prevents us from being curious about our children's actual experiences. Furthermore, it creates a sense of anxiety and guilt around food for both parents and children, turning celebratory moments into sources of stress. Unlearning the myth of the sugar rush teaches us a vital lesson about the immense power of confirmation bias and the placebo effect. It demonstrates how easily our beliefs can shape our perception of reality, even to the point of influencing how we interact with the people we love most. We believe sugar makes our kids wild, so we see them as wild after they eat it. The effect is real, but the cause we've assigned is an illusion. It's a potent reminder that sometimes the stories we're most convinced are true are the ones we should question the most. Because often, the most influential ingredient in any experience isn't the one listed on the label, but the one that exists purely in our minds. Now you know the real story. What other half-truths are still out there? If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a comment, and join us next time. Until then, stay curious.